Fire Department new airbase set in Kuching. Largest wildlife seizure in Malaysia. Medicine shortage expected to be resolved by the Health Ministry. Those are the headlines for tonight. I'm Lorenzo Isaac and this is TVS Nightline. The existing Fire and Rescue Department airbase in Miri will be relocated to Kuching once the newly identified airbase is completed. The new site situated nearby Kuching International Airport will be one of the 3 airbases in the country. As such, the government is open on the proposed Bomba Air Unit expansion on East Coast and Sabah, which the current airbase in Miri is servicing the entire East Malaysia, adding that the government remains committed at improving and adding more equipment for the fire department. Malaysia has been singled out by conservation as a major transit point for the illegal trafficking of endangered wildlife to other Asian countries. Following the 80 million ringgit worth of traffic wildlife contraband seizure made at the west port of Selangor on July 10, the largest such seizure on record to date.
Yang ini adalah terbesar, mana gading gajah ni kita anggaran nilai dia gading gajah campur tulang harimau, campur tengkorak harimau, campur sumbu badak, tenggiling dan lain-lain tulang tu kita lah anggarkan 80 juta. Yes. Bangsaan mendapati gading gajah kita dapat lebih kurang 6,000 kilo. Kemudian kita dapati badak sumbu. Tanduk badak sumbu 29 kilo dan sisik ini sebanyak 14 kilo. Tengkorak dan tulang haiwan dianggarkan seberat 300 kilo.
Zazuli said custom officials discovered the contraband inside 3 shipping containers deemed high risk at the west port of Selangor. The containers are believed to have arrived from Africa.
Pasukan operasi telah dapat memantau pergerakan kapal yang membawa 3 kontena bersiko yang dipercayai berasal dari Afrika. Tindakan pemeriksaan saringan menggunakan mesin mengimbas mendapati sebuah kontena disyaki membawa barang larangan. Pemeriksaan fizikal dilakukan ke atas kontena dan didapati ia membawa gading gajah, tanduk badak sumbu, sisik tenggiling, taring harimau, tanduk haiwan dan tengkorak serta tulang haiwan yang disorok di belakang timbunan kayu bergaji.
The shortage of medicine in the country is expected to be resolved within 2 weeks at least, said Deputy Health Minister Datuk Dr. Nur Asmi Ghazali. He said the Health Ministry was working toward resolving the issue immediately.
In the past, medicine supply was slow due to raw materials arriving late and possibly due to the sudden high demand and also because of the movement control order. Azmi said it is also likely due to the war in Ukraine. According to him, there is not only a shortage of meat and eggs, but also medicine. He said when met by reporters after opening the National Institute of Health NIH scientific seminar on Tuesday. The MOH prior to this said that it will release government medicine stockpiles to private clinics and hospitals following shortages in the market. Its Minister Khairi Jamaluddin said the move was following the loaning of medicines as announced on June 13 from the ministry's health clinics and hospitals to private clinics as a part of a temporary solution.
Over the past couple of weeks, Malaysia recorded an increase in COVID-19 cases with over 3,000 new COVID-19 infections reported on Sunday. This mirrors the situation internationally, with cities like Shanghai and Macau resorting to another lockdown to curb the COVID-19 virus. Despite assurances by our leaders, there won't be another economic shutdown. Many fear Malaysia will follow suit. The same was expressed by an economic expert on the matter. Here's a recap of our conversation with former Executive Director of the Malaysian Institute of Economic Research, Professor Emeritus Datuk Dr. Zakaria Abdul Rashid, earlier today.
I personally think that I don't think there will be any lockdown again in the future. First, for the reason is that last time when the lockdown was introduced, it is to halt the spread of COVID-19, and but the economic impact of the lockdown is very devastating. So if you mention about these two regions, Macau and China, particularly Shanghai, that is the choice of an individual country. But I don't think Malaysia will undertake the lockdown again unless the pandemic reoccur at a global scale.
Considered necessary for reducing the risk of spreading COVID-19, the confinement measures are putting unprecedented pressure on local markets and economies. Dr. Zakaria said in the event that there is another lockdown, the public's health should be of importance despite it having a repercussion on livelihood and the economy.
The choice between life and livelihood. And I think we have to take care of our life first before we talking about livelihood. But both are important. So if there is a need, if the pandemic reoccur at a global scale, then all the country will have to undertake lockdown. All the country in the world as before, as in the 2020. So we have to follow. We have to follow suit. This is great economic impact on us. If we practice another lockdown, then we have to remember that it's not only our country, then the whole world will be affected.
Asked to comment on the inflation brought by the COVID-19 pandemic and the Russia-Ukraine conflict, Dr. Zakaria said the public should not be too reliant on the subsidies as it is not a sustainable practice to bring down inflation.
Inflation is now a major problem to the people in the world. So we are experiencing about 2.5, 2.8% inflation, but other countries, especially the Western countries, nearly 10%, 9.8, 9.5%. The government now contain inflationary phenomenon by introducing a lot of intervention by the government in terms of giving subsidy. Because subsidies, 77 billion for this year, 2022, will not last much any longer. Because from year to year, we always break our historical record of giving subsidy. That means giving subsidy is not a sustainable practice in any country in the world. So that means hopefully that's what we hope. Maybe after perhaps 1 or 2 years, things will come back to normal, and we have to do away with the subsidies, and we will now start building up our capacity, rebuilding our capacity of the economy, so that our economy will be able to function normally or can be more competitive in the global world.
The circulation of the expenditure-saving measures by the Malaysian Treasury will affect the financing of projects in Sarawak. As a countermeasure, the state government will utilise its own funds to finance these projects. If neglected, these projects could have an adverse effect on sustaining the economic vitality. Therefore, a resolution must be formulated in order for the progress on federal projects aren't affected, and it should be made based on repayment and how great it benefits the greater public.
Kita akan teruskan bermakna bukan kita tidak berjimat, tapi kita rasa bahawa kita ada affordability kita sudah dirangka. Jadi untuk Sarawak kita teruskan jambatan, RTP semua jalan. Jadi saya rasa secara makronya tidak terjejas sebab kita teruskan yang yang dinaikkan oleh kerajaan negeri, projek yang dibiayai oleh kerajaan negeri.
Abang Johari said a resolution must be formulated in order for the progress of federal projects aren't affected, and it should be made based on repayment and how it benefits the public.
Bilateral ties between the United Kingdom and Malaysia wasn't shaken despite of the COVID-19 pandemic, safeguarding the interests and welfare of its citizens in Malaysia during the trying period. In fact, the relationship was further strengthened through sharing intelligence to resolve the many problems the pandemic had ensued globally. State UK's High Commissioner in Malaysia, His Excellency Charles Hay.
We found we were even busier than ever in some ways. So, for example, there are lots of British businesses in Malaysia, lots of manufacturing. They needed more help and support from us during that period. The UK had an increased need for PPE, of course, a lot of which is made in Malaysia, so we had to work on that. We had to help British people who were caught out in one way or another by the pandemic. So in fact, our workload increased rather than anything else during the pandemic period.
But fortunately, the relationship remained.
The relationship remained strong, yes.
Educationally, 5 UK universities in Malaysia continue to operate despite several setbacks, with its counterparts in the UK are content with how UK universities are treated in the country.
Just a couple of weeks ago, I was in Scotland and I visited the main Heriot Watt campus in Edinburgh, and they were telling me how happy they were about the relationship they have in their campus in Malaysia. We don't even know how many educational tie-ups between different UK universities and Malaysian universities. There are British schools, Marlborough School in Johor, for example, and there are more Malaysians studying in the UK still per head of population than any other country. So, you know, the UK is in many ways, as you know, like a second home to many Malaysians.
Coming up right after the break, collaborative learning, significant increase in flights to Penang. Right here on TVS Nightline, stay tuned. Welcome back. The Singapore Ministry of Education is eager and prepared to collaborate with Sarawak's Ministry of Education, Innovation and Talent Development in order to improve educational quality and nurture science, technology, engineering and maths or STEM talents in Sarawak. These collaborations were discussed over a dinner hosted by Singapore's Minister for Education, Chan Chung Sing, for Sarawak's Minister for Education, Innovation and Talent Development, Datuk Roland Sagahwi, during his working visit to Singapore.
The programs will cover students' exchanges, teachers' competency development programs, experience sharing visits by Singapore teachers to Sarawak, and programs to nurture interests and talents in STEM. Earlier in the day, the Sarawak delegation also paid a courtesy call on the representatives from the Biomedical Research Council BMRC and Bioprocessing Technology Institute BTI, which come under the purview of the Agency for Science, Technology and Research Singapore, also known as ASTAR. The team from A-STAR were also given an introduction to the Sarawak Research and Development Council by its General Manager, Dr. Peter Mori Nisom. The meeting resulted in potential research collaboration between Singapore research institutes, particularly in areas of natural products development from Sarawak's biological resources for food, flavors, therapeutics, and medicinal properties.
Penang has regained its strength since the opening of international border last April, with a sharp increase of flights and passengers since last January by 783%. He noted that on the breakdown of international flights on a weekly basis, Singapore ranked the highest, followed by Medan and Bangkok. He added that various initiatives have been implemented at both domestic and international levels in revitalizing the state's tourism industry. Yeo also disclosed that during the press conference held at Penang International Airport that the committee are in talks with several airlines on direct flights, Hong Kong and the Middle Eastern countries. The expenditure-saving measures opted by the government will not affect projects related to national security as it remains a priority. The Ministry of Finance stated that global economic uncertainty, international geopolitical tensions, as well as the sharp rise in global commodity and food prices had resulted in high inflationary pressures. Thus, through such measure that aim of slashing 5% of the government's operating expenses to spend on additional expenditures related to subsidies for the welfare of the people.
Projek-projek pembangunan yang belum dilaksanakan di dalam perancangan. Tapi detailnya tu apa lah.
Tapi anything about keselamatan tak akan terjejas lah dengan polisi ni.
Banner camp ke, banner post di kawalan sempadan ke semua tak akan terjejas. Keselamatan mesti prioriti.
He told reporters after officiating at the launch of the 2022 National Security Conference, PKN22, and the National Security Month celebration. In view of this, the Ministry of Finance, MOF, would finalize and issue a restriction warrant to inform the amount of the reduced allocation. Ismail Sabri said further details on the cost-saving measures to be implemented would be announced by the Minister in the Prime Minister's Department, Economy, Datuk Seri Mustafa Muhammad.
In regard to Sulu Group claims, Prime Minister Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri Yaakob gave assurance that the government will protect the country's assets during using all channels available.
Saya beri jaminan, kita tidak akan berkompromi atau berganjak seinci pun dalam mempertahankan hak dan kedaulatan negara kita. Tindakan sedang dijalankan, sedang diambil. Seperti yang saya sebut, Menteri Undang-Undang dah sebutkan, kita telah menubuhkan Special Task Force untuk melihat perkara ini secara menyeluruh. Bukan setakat aset Petronas sajalah, aset-aset lain kita di luar negara. Banyak lagi GLC, agensi-agensi kajian pun mempunyai aset di luar negara dan kita akan tengok secara keseluruhan. Itulah tanggungjawab yang kita berikan kepada pasukan khas Special Task Force mengenai Kesultanan Sulu.
He said this in response to the issue concerning the Sulu Group, who were reported to have threatened Malaysia's interests and assets overseas, especially the assets belonging to the government-linked companies. On July 12, assets of two Petronas subsidiaries in Azerbaijan were reported to have been seized by the Sulu Group, who were claiming 62.59 billion ringgit from Malaysia. The move was said to be part of a legal effort launched in 2017 by the heirs to receive compensation over land in Sabah, which they claimed their ancestor had leased to a British trading company in 1878. Ismail Sabri said he was made to understand that Petronas and Minister in the Prime Minister's Department for Parliament and Law, Datuk Seri Wan Junaidi Tuanku Jaafar, would give an explanation to Parliament soon on the seizure of Petronas asset in Azerbaijan. He said the Cabinet had on July 14 agreed to set up a special task force to study, monitor and formulate an appropriate action plan based on the provision of the law to address the issue of Sulu Group claims on Malaysia.
Now on to some global affairs. In the city of Santo Domingo, Ecuador, a prison riot broke out and killed 13 prisoners on Monday. This was the latest incident of the deadly jail violence in Ecuador, where the motive was the control of the territory and drug trafficking routes.
Hasta el momento se han levantado 13 cuerpos y está haciéndose una inspección total al interior de los centros. Es bastante probable que podamos, así como se descarte en el transcurso de las horas, están revisando celda a celda, si es que podrían aparecer más cuerpos. Eso no lo tenemos con certeza. La única realidad es que ya 13 cuerpos han sido levantados y trasladados hacia el departamento médico.
Relatives of the inmates in the prison were seen waiting outside, wanting to know whether their loved ones are safe and somehow confused on how did the incident happen.
Las personas que están matando allá adentro, ¿cómo le entraron armas? Si los policías son los mismos corruptos, son los corruptos ustedes. Ustedes no tienen familiares o no les duele lo que uno lo está pasando acá afuera. ¿Ah? No les duele.
316 prisoners died last year during riots in various prisons in Ecuador as police and armed forces were taking control of the prison. Official figures said the Ecuador's prison housed about 33,900 people and currently are 12.5% beyond maximum capacity. A man who was trapped in a Spanish wildfire has escaped with his clothes ablaze after attempting to prevent the blaze from spreading the town of Tabara on Monday, July 18.
Named locally as Angel Martin Arjona, he was driving a digger towards the fire in a field on the outskirts of the town when the vehicle was engulfed in flames. Seconds later, he was seen running from the fire, tripping and scrambling to his feet before flames could be seen on his clothes. Arjuna, who owns a construction warehouse in the town, was apparently trying to dig a trench to create a fire break between the blaze and the buildings. He suffered burns and was airlifted to the hospital. His condition is unknown.
The former British Finance Minister, Rishi Sunak, won the most support in the third round of voting to find a replacement for Prime Minister Boris Johnson on Monday, July 18. As lawmakers, Tom Tugendhat was eliminated. Sunak won the round with 115 votes.
Tugendhat, the only candidate who wasn't part of any Boris Johnson cabinet, settled in with just 31 votes.
I have the results of the third ballot. 357 votes were cast out of a possible total of 358. I'll again read the name of the candidate and the number of votes cast in alphabetical order. Badenoch, 58. Mordaunt, 82. Sunak, 115. Truss, 71. Tugendhat, 31. So Tom Tugendhat is eliminated from the election.
Now, not all blood is alike. Learn about blood typing and the rarest and most common types of blood and how they can impact your blood donation. Get some insights with the expert on Sejahtera Asia tomorrow with medical doctor Dr. Wong Yi Xian and blood donor Wilson Anak Rimbit with Sharon Kizia and Wan Alif, 7:45 AM on TVS Astro Channel 122 and My Freeview. See the world closer with TVS as we bring you the latest news updates both locally and internationally. Just a click away by heading onto our official website at TVSTVMY or follow us on our social media platforms. That's all the time we have for TVS Nightline. I'm Lorenzo Isaac. Thank you for watching.